Well, welcome to the Metaville. I'm Rosanna Catalano, an attorney and the founder of Rocket Ship Consultants. I'm excited to be your ambassador to the Metaverse today.
And I'm Joy Tootle. I'm also an attorney, and I'm the operations director for Rocket Ship Consultants. Our guest today is Justin Lacche, Chief Metaverse Officer for the Portland Sasquatch, a professional team handball club. Welcome to the Metaville.
Well, I'm really glad to be here, and this is such an exciting time, not only for the industry, but I think a very empowering time for anyone interested in this new technology. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, we absolutely love your job title, which is Chief Metaverse Officer. So please tell us what you do.
Well, my background, both from the Fortune 100 ethos as well as professional sports, has always been about operationalizing and small minor league teams, but making them relevant. And in the United States, that really means having a technological digital footprint along with the professional teams. So my role as Chief Metaverse Officer is to really help not only introduce this sport to others through the metaverse, and we'll talk a little bit about what that means, but also really unlock all the future tech that can come with it through the collaboration, innovation, the cryptocurrency element, the big data, and even we'll talk about how you can actually have brick and mortar products coming directly from metaverse. So really, the summary for being the Chief Metaverse Officer is to make it as light touch and fun, but really to pressure test how we could connect with our fans in ways we could never do even a year ago.
I'm excited to hear more about this. And that's a good segue, though, into what do you consider the metaverse to be?
Well, I think I was saying before this podcast, I'm looking forward to all the different answers from guests. But for me, the metaverse is a deeper unlock for what we consider the Internet of Things. So what does that really mean is the metaverse is a three-dimensional graphic way to digitally express yourself. But on the back end, you're unlocking all the important new future technologies, which is blockchain technology. And we'll talk a little bit about why that's important versus the traditional gaming. There is an ecosystem tied with cryptocurrency. There is the ability to collaborate and sell NFT art. We'll talk a little bit about more what that means. But also, to me, the metaverse is the natural evolution of a post-COVID world where people want to be more of themselves in a digital way, but also have it tie into their real-world operational lives. And we call that the Omniverse.
I think that's a great description of the metaverse and having it tie into people's their real physical world. Yeah. So tell us how you are involved in particular, specifically with the metaverse, the 3D web, which it's sometimes called.
I think that my job is to always predict as accurately as possible what will the world look like 6 months, 9 months, 2 years from now, and then how do we operationalize it in a way that's tangible. I think that in any C-level position, especially in the metaverse or technology, that's the most important thing. So two years ago, the first time that I saw one of the metaverses, which is Decentraland, and by the way, I'm metaverse agnostic, so I'm not here to push a specific brand, but Decentraland was one of the earliest to the game. I was just stunned about the low entrance barrier, how you could join for free, how they had established cryptocurrency, how they had a global user base. And also for myself, coming from a family where English was not the native language spoken at home, I've always been very passionate about ensuring that diversity, equality, and inclusion actually is not only realized in technology, but it opens the door to level the playing field. And I saw all those things 2 or 3 years ago. I would say that COVID-19 forced globally all of us to reinvent ourselves digitally. And I think that we would have had this conversation probably in 2025. But because of how the globe had to acclimate, the metaverse is now here. And I would say in 2022, when Meta becomes a more prominent thing with Facebook and others, it'll be the new normal going forward.
It does seem like the process has definitely fast forwarded just a bit based on COVID and the different circumstances surrounding that. So how can the metaverse empower multiple communities?
I was on a podcast last week with Hawaiian Public Radio. I'm a native Hawaiian language speaker, and I was asked the same question, which is, I believe that the metaverse is an opportunity to not only be our better selves, but to truly give a voice to the diverse and amazing cultures that make up the human community. So what I would say is to anyone is, don't look at the metaverse as anything to throw millions of dollars at right away, or don't look at the metaverse to solve anything that you don't know. Ask yourself this: if there was a more secure, dynamic, robust way for you digitally to advance who you are, what you care about, the relationships are important, the business relationships, what would you want to do? Then begin to craft those use cases, and then begin to pressure test in the metaverse, just like you did the first time you access the internet at whatever time in your life's journey you were. You won't overnight solve that, but the thing I wanted to demystify is that you could do what we did, which is we're a relatively small but championship minor league team. And through the metaverse, we created digital art secure by blockchain that we then had 3D printed into actual trading cards. So it's not anything to be overwhelmed, but just understand, like any language or new process or job, the more you practice, the better you'll get.
I want to put up those trading cards because I think you sent them to me. So real quickly, put them up here so people can see closer. These are so creative.
And for context, and I appreciate the opportunity, is what we really wanted to let people know. Our team, because we're sort of the leader in our space, we help other clubs also have a metaverse presence. But the thing that I wanted just for all of your listeners to understand is that it does not have to be a 3-year process to operationalize in brick and mortar or to operationalize in whatever is your industry learnings that you have in the metaverse. I would advise people, rather than jumping in and throwing millions of dollars in, to really refine your use cases, work with your customers. If you're in academia, work with your student body. If you're in law, work with your clients. Get familiar with the opportunities. But I think that I wanted to let you know that the metaverse actually, in many ways, was less expensive, so to speak, than had we been able to do it beforehand. And there's a lot of benefits to the security. But I will be much smarter 2 weeks from now than I am today. That's how fast the technology literally is evolving.
That's fascinating. And the tools are definitely out there. It's just a matter of us utilizing them. There are some that are inexpensive, and I agree, just start slow. And by even talking to someone like you, you're showing us different uses for how we can get into the metaverse.
Enjoy it. I salute this podcast and for what this podcast is doing, which is demystifying it. And what resonates about what your team does with these podcasts is it's about empowering people. And just like you said, I always make technology akin to learning a language or learning a new skill. Is if you do anything for thousands of hours, you'll be good at it. So the thing that I would just suggest people for the metaverse is there are just a couple of things to think about, which number one is, by definition, because it requires more horsepower, you're talking about 3D graphics, blockchain, you will have to at some point think about what does that mean from like a hardware perspective. But I'm talking to you as an example to evangelize on a $400 Chromebook. So it's not millions of dollars, but the things, Joy, to your point about understanding what, from a business perspective, utilizing a more advanced type of technology, those are the things that now the next 2 fiscal quarters would really help people so that you can really hit the ground running. But like you said, my goal is I would like everyone tonight to log on to a metaverse, start with Decentraland or another, and have fun with it. Get on the board. It
is fun. It is fun. On that note, let's take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we want to hear more about your thoughts on the Metaverse Web3. Welcome back. Our guest is Justin Lacche, Chief Metaverse Officer for the Portland Sasquatch, a professional team handball club. So, Justin, how does the metaverse align with brick and mortar?
To me, I believe that the most important thing we should evangelize is that do not consider the metaverse just a video game. Now, I work in esports, and I by no means am saying that there's anything wrong with that. But just as the internet allowed people to shop, stay employed, stay connected during COVID, the metaverse should be a natural evolution of the brick and mortar experience to really fully unlock who we are as people. So like any technology, I think that the metaverse will give many new opportunities to reinvent who you are from a digital experience. If you're an athlete, you can have much more what if scenarios from a data perspective. You can compete globally. If you're a student in Central Africa, you can have access to play against athletes all around the world that you may not have had simply because you have a more robust now platform to engage in. But it will not mean we're not going to be walking around with goggles for 19 hours a day, or I certainly hope not. So I think that what we will actually see is an enhanced experience in academia in the brick and mortar, because now when you're going to shop in 2022 and 2023, your expectations are a much more personalized experience. And equally important, your expectations, especially in all continents, not just North America, should be that you're truly being heard. So that will be a call to action for brick and mortar to really step up. But I think that you'll see great opportunities in customer membership, retention, in-store innovation that will go hand in hand together.
Amazing. I'm so excited about it. So what does the metaverse mean to economics? You've kind of touched on it a bit, but what do you think it is going to happen here in that space?
You know, the three of us talked before the podcast about how passionate we are about democratizing opportunities to all cultures all around the world. So I'm very excited. You know, I have some very dear friends in Africa, in Southeast Asia, around the world, who just have amazing ideas. And I believe that the metaverse will create a fair economic and intellectual playing ground for those ideas to be operationally accepted globally. I think that there's also going to be a great opportunity from an economics perspective to really pressure test not only the cost to develop products, but how are they sold? Now, cryptocurrency is a whole separate podcast, but the fact that there are different economic paradigms, I think will be very empowering. There are Central American countries, South American countries right now that are adopting cryptocurrency as their main currency. I'm not advocating if that's good or bad, but what I'm saying is these are things that are already happening. But what I would say is the real call to action is to unlock your dreams and think global, because the metaverse could be a great opportunity to bring us together as people, not divide us. And that's really my hope for this future technology.
Yes, we have had other guests say that the metaverse can definitely be used for the good of the world. And there's a lot of positives in it. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that develops in the coming years. How can audience members connect with you or your organization moving forward?
Yeah, like we said before, just how I admire what your podcast is for getting out the word. I'm purposely just going to offer LinkedIn because I want people to connect with me as a peer. I'm not here to sell anything. So feel free to look me up, Justin Lacche, on LinkedIn. And I'm happy to share whatever perspectives that I have. What I would also just say is there is no single expert by definition on blockchain or the metaverse. That's why it's special. So I'm happy to share, but equally, I'm happy to learn.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been really educational. We love it. So, you know, our show discusses all topics related to the metaverse, and to suggest a guest or become a sponsor, reach out to us. Our emails will appear at the end of the show. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our show. And of course, share it on your social media channels. Signing off from the Metaville, I'm Rosanna Catalano.
And I'm Joy Tootle. Join us again on the Metaville to be ready for what's next.
Thank you.
Thank you.